Hello, everybody. Come join our live interview. If you're just like hanging around, sitting in front of your computer, waiting the bus, getting bored, whatever you're doing, just stop what you're doing and connect to us here now. That is more fun, I promise you. So we're here in San Francisco, beloved Bay Area, and I'm here with Joe Tafur, who is a person that I've learned to admire more and more, that I've known for a decade or so, and that I've seen grown a lot, and that has also helped me grow a lot. So it's an honor to be here. Thanks for your time, Joe. Thanks for being with us. Just want to tell everybody that we have the beautiful bay in this happy morning. And I was yesterday in the event of Erie, our friends, Larry and Julie, that were promoted a very interesting talk between Joe and Rachel Harris that also launched a book. And Joe was talking about his book, and that's what our interview is going to be about. So what is the name of your book, Joe?
The book is called The Fellowship of the River. What is it? A medical doctor's exploration to traditional Amazonian plant medicine. Fellowship of the River.
Fellowship of the River. So that's already, kudos for you, because you kicked ass in that title. Congratulations. It's a really good title. What is the book about? I know it tells your story. Tell us your story.
The book is about the Fellowship of the River. The great title, as my friend came up with it, is the idea of we were talking about after family medicine residency, after becoming a doctor and all that, we wanted to explore a different kind of training, a different exploration. And so we, for fun, came up with the Fellowship of the River, which was just going to be a trip down to Peru to try ayahuasca, to go down the Amazon. And then that turned into, for me, a real serious journey that became a medical training, like a subspecialization in traditional Amazonian plant medicine, in which I went for personal reasons, and then was very interested and started going and witnessing what kind of healing work was being done in Iquitos, Peru, at some of the ayahuasca healing centers. And then as a doctor, started bringing groups of people down there for healing, and then saw great results with those people, and then eventually ended up helping start a center with Ricardo Amaringo and Svita Mamic, Niwerao Centro Espiritual, where I worked for several years. And during that time went through the training to become a traditional shaman in the Shipibo tradition. And so the book is about that journey from medical school to getting involved in all that kind of stuff, to going through the training and watching what happens to people going through that kind of healing. And it becomes a reflection on the journey, the adventure of that experience, and then a presentation of those cases from a doctor's perspective. And then also a reflection on the scientific kind of perspective on what do I think is happening, how can we bridge medical understanding, scientific understanding in this shamanic healing work that's creating such a shift for a lot of people.
Well, that's, so much right there. So I just want to acknowledge that Joe had the energy and the guts to do very difficult things. One, to be a medical doctor. 2, to train under Shipibo shamanism. 3, to write a book. So I think that puts you in a rather unique place, and that's the force, the power of his place of speech, is that he has knowledge on the scientific realm, but he also, went to Peru and sat down and had his knees on buckets for years. So I respect that. And I just want to go back a little bit and come, for our audience to understand a little bit of your trajectory, which I say it's so unique. Let's go back to that younger Joe. And why did you want to become a medical doctor in the first place?
Well, my dad was a doctor. My dad was a psychiatrist, and so I grew up around a lot of doctors, his friends, our family friends, and I was very interested in biology and science, and also kind of service and helping people. And I went to college with a pre-med kind of idea, but then it didn't seem like it was the right fit for me. This was geared towards more achievement and all that kind of stuff. And so I started going into biology, field biology, ecology. I was more interested in kind of the outdoors. But that was a very loner field. I went into it a little bit, and then I ended up kind of gravitating back towards healthcare, and I spent some time in kind of a healthcare related job in LA and got exposed to a lot of alternative medicine, acupuncture and energy healing and just meditation and other kinds of spiritual healing. So I started becoming interested again in medical work. And then I thought about maybe studying traditional Chinese medicine, because that was an opportunity in California where I was living. That was more advanced training in some kind of alternative, what we thought was alternative technique. And I took a course there, and I was very curious about that. But then my dad, he was always encouraging me, well, why don't you become an MD first and then do that? And that was his...
Good advice, no?
Yeah, smart advice in the end. But it's what created the whole issue, because going to medical school for me, with my sensibility, is kind of what made me get depressed and crack and break. And
were you like kind of not very fit there, and like didn't have a lot of friends, and were kind of a weirdo, or?
No, I think that actually had a good like social support with my friends, and so I didn't feel so weird. I think there was a lot of good people there. I think just the culture of the school and the faculty in the first couple of years, and the mentality and the intensity of it was just hard on me. Like I say, that what's been missing, I think, in the medical field a little bit is just the emotional and spiritual components of healthcare, and just that those things were being kind of ignored at a level that was hard for me, who kind of was a spiritually oriented person. And I know that it wasn't necessarily malicious, their intent, but that was hard, and just the whole structure and the humiliation and just the negativity, the unhealthiness of some of the faculty and some of what they wanted from us. So that is what kind of made me suffer. And so then that's what turned me to go back to my dad and try antidepressants a little bit as for mental health, for depression. And then that also turned into me getting exposed to this clinical psychedelic research renaissance, and learning about what was going on, and realizing that these antidepressants I was taking, even just for a brief period of time, but were biochemically related to psilocybin, to the serotonin like activating antidepressants, and just even feeling a little bit like I was on drugs, being on that stuff, just with the kind of sensitivity that I have. And just realizing, wow, I think if I'm already like part way there, and this doesn't feel natural to me, why don't I try something like that? And I wasn't somebody that was like a drug enthusiast, psychonautic. I tried a few things, but I was scared to do something like peyote. We were just talking. Rachel Harris was talking to some family friend of mine that I grew up with, and she was like, "Oh, how wild was Joe? Growing up." He's like, "He's a very straight-laced kid."
All right, so you're there, ironically, a medical student, getting trained to be a medical doctor, getting depressed, taking antidepressants, and then you launch yourself to the Amazon and to drink ayahuasca?
Before that, I'm from Arizona, and so I went to go do peyote in a spiritual context at the Peyote Way Church, and that's what shifted things for me. That peyote ceremony, a spiritual plant medicine ceremony, is what shifted my mental health experience and really reconnected me and kind of made me feel whole again, and gave me the strength to complete medical school. And so that's what I went back to do that a couple times, because I just was so blown away by what it was doing for me, and just how what it created in me. And so then I started meeting shamans that were working with peyote, and I kind of felt this familiarity with them. And then I knew about ayahuasca from Colombia, from my family. And so I knew that was there, and I was like, wow, if peyote is doing this for me and it's this powerful, I wonder what ayahuasca is like. That started growing in me, that curiosity. And I was exposed to my friend who was doing research connected to maps. And so I was around that kind of discussion, and then started reading books like Jeremy Narby's Cosmic Serpent and DMT the Spirit Molecule, and finding out a friend of mine who I went to the Amazon with the first time, Kayvon, he already drank ayahuasca. And so then I just had this growing curiosity about it.
Yeah, and it just blows my mind, like culturally as an anthropologist. So his family is Colombian and American, and he's living in the U.S., and then he meets peyote, that is the sacrament of the land. It's the sacrament per excellence here in this land, and that brings him to his roots and a little bit back to Colombia. So, people and plants don't have borders, and this is also about what we're trying to do in Chacruna, is to talk about these logics that are not tightly classified in our current territories and in our current drug laws and in our current biomedical classifications. So like the vine and the cactus spread, and this has gone beyond borders. I'm interested in going back to Colombia, and we don't have a lot of time. What can we talk about this 6-year period that you just want to put it out there to sparkle people's imagination of your
about Peru?
Yeah.
So I was, running. That was, I was going 2007. I went to Peru the first time, and then by the end of 2016, I was kind of exiting as a business partner of the center, but still taking groups down last year and still being involved in bringing groups down. So it was a 10-year period. 6 of those years were intensive at Niue Rao, where it was 6 to 8 months of the year, not the entire year, because I was coming back to work as a doctor to raise money to do the project. That time period there was beautiful, very intense, but some of the most profound healing work that I've ever been as part of as a doctor, as a medical doctor, as far as making a difference in people's lives, people coming up to us, thanking us for creating it and providing that opportunity. And all it was giving people a chance to get exposed to just traditional Shipibo plant medicine, which involved multiple master plants and ayahuasca shamanism, and just the profound way that created so much deep healing for people that ended up showing me how powerful emotional and spiritual healing can be, and even shift things in very serious mental health diagnoses and physical medical diagnoses. And then going through the training it was a lot of magical, unbelievable things, like I say, beyond your imagination.
And does it really heal? Do you think it works? Can it be effective?
I think it can be effective. It can heal. It's not a panacea like they say, but it can be very effective in the right hands and done in the right way. It can encourage a lot of healing.
What do you think is ayahuasca's most powerful therapeutic potentials?
I think some of its most therapeutic potentials ultimately is to guide people through the kind of deep emotional healing that they need to optimize their health.
Okay, the dimension, the emotional part, it's like it's not a disease, it's not one specific thing. It has to do with well-being, with identity, with feeling good about who you are. I agree to this general statement. In our book, The Therapeutic Use of Ayahuasca, we talk a lot about that. I just wonder, you spent 6 years in your life in Peru, near Iquitos, jungle place, training under Shipibo shaman, having groups of foreigners coming in and out, and now you're back in the States. How do you feel?
Yeah, it's a little bit tough. It's a tough transition coming back over there, where we were living in a spiritual center, in a spiritual life, and where money was not such a concern, and then we're here where money is the big priority of life in the United States. And so that becomes, the issue. How do you generate the kind of income that you need to have the quality of life that you're looking for here, whereas there with very little money you're living quite, satisfied.
So let's go back to the beginning. You had, Joe's dad telling, okay, son, cool, but first let's be an MD, right? Okay, I'll be an MD. Then I'm going to go to the Amazon and I'm going to do all my adventures. Okay, and I did it, and now I'm back. So let's suppose you had a son, or let's just, imagine we have one cool, young, enthusiast person watching us, and he's saying, I want to go to the Amazon, and I want to learn how to be a shaman, and I want to sing, and I want to heal, and I want to do good for the world. What is the respectable, more mature Joe gonna tell as an advice for this young person? Do it, don't do it, but do it this way, or just figure it out? What do you have to say?
I think even within the tradition, a decision like that to go into shamanic healing is a long-term decision. They don't advise anyone to they're not convinced. I think the traditional shamans that I'm around, that somebody has a vision that they should become a shaman, and that overnight they should do it. I think in general people are encouraged to reflect on a thought like that over a period of probably years. And so, like I said, I went down. I had a big experience in 2007, and I thought, wow, I think I'm going to be involved in this kind of work. And then it wasn't until 2011 where I'm working at the center, and then not really committing to serious training until probably 2012, and not really feeling like I completed the basic part of that training for another several years. So I think the reality is that if you want to be a serious, shamanic practitioner, not like Ricardo says, just a blah blah blah, that it's something that goes on over years time.
Yeah, folks, I think that's a great wrap up, talking about maturation, years, training. Just want to head back to you. I don't know if you have any quote that you like, or any song that you like, or anything from there that you want to just give to us as a gift to conclude this.
Just my thing that I'm into saying right now is just spiritual healing is spiritual practice. Spiritual practice is spiritual healing. The purpose of spiritual practice is to improve our spiritual health. And so that is the way that spirituality and healthcare come together. And so they're not distinct, that it's the same thing, that it's because we're trying to improve our well-being that people are involved in spiritual practice. And so spiritual practice should be doing that for people. And spiritual healing a lot of times can be a form of spiritual practice for people.
Well, very good. That's Joe Tafur with us. I just want to say a good hi and introduce one of our volunteers here of our social media team. Melissa, thanks for your service in the social media. And we're happy to be here in San Francisco in this beautiful morning. Stay tuned with Chacruna. We're talking about spiritual healing. We're talking about spiritual practice with knowledge, with information, with deep, solid researchers that have done the homework. And we're not just blah, blah, blah here either. Keep on tuned. Thank you.